Welcome back to... Who the heck picks Aerith over Tifa? I can't believe you. Anyways, welcome back to Maximum News, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, as always, Max Derrat, and joining me, as always, is Syb, and don't hate on him. I was just joking there at the beginning. Syb, how are you doing?
I am doing great, and wow, I'm so shocked. I'm so shocked.
By
I can
what?
still insta-kill
What?
in this 27-year-old game.
What game are you talking about?
Mario RPG. They left in the XOR insta-kill.
What does that mean? Sorry. Like
you get to do 9,999 damage, and I love it. I love it.
Wait.
Sorry, I'm getting ahead of the game stuff.
It's okay. No. It's okay. Yeah. So in case you guys didn't realize, we're talking about Super Mario RPG. But what are you talking about? Like, how do you do that?
So there's this old bug that I remember talking about, like when I was way, way younger, about how you could get an insta-kill using this thing called XOR in the game.
Uh-huh.
And apparently it's still here in the remake. I love it. Yeah.
How do you do that?
I don't know. Somebody just like, you can still do this. And I'm like, wait, really?
Wow.
And I literally have to bug my old brain because I was never allowed a Nintendo growing up. We always had to use Nintendos at other people, so I don't remember all the cheats quite as well as I'd like to.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'm surprised that they went that far, but then again, I was also surprised when they kept the Vibe Scepter in. All right. So we're going to be talking about Super Mario RPG off the top, and we also have a whole bunch of other positive pieces of news that we got to get into. Some negative news, but mostly positive, which is always celebratory. But yeah, speaking of Super Mario RPG. Generally recognized as one of the greatest games of all time. Like whenever in the gaming sphere and forums and YouTube videos, whatever, whenever you hear people talk about some of the most important games or the greatest games of all time, you tend to hear games like Ocarina of Time, Half-Life, what else? I don't know, like games like that. And one that I've always heard about often is Super Mario RPG. I never played it. I never owned a Super Nintendo, but I've always heard that it's like the GOAT when it comes to RPGs and one of the greatest Mario games of all time. So I was particularly... Sorry, go ahead.
I love JRPGs. There's just something special about going into the battle and you get your 4 characters or your 5 characters on the side, and then you go through the battle and you're selecting do I want to use a skill attack? Do I want to use an item? Do I want to guard? What do I want to do? It's like, I love those games. I loved them when I think the first time I played one, I was like 8 or 9. And I love them still today. And there's a lot of indie games that I actually support that make games exactly like this because I love it. And it's always been super cool. I've always loved it. So I think, again, I was never able to actually complete and finish the actual game because I had to play other people's saves when I went to their house, and I couldn't save my, it's like, can I play Mario RPG? Yes, but don't save over my save. It's like, oh, okay, I'll just play your save, and whatever I do in the game will just be lost because I'm not able to save it because I couldn't save it.
Yeah.
So
that's usually how it went for whenever I went over to people's houses to play the N64, because I never had an N64. I had a PlayStation 1, so I never got to play games like Banjo or the Zelda games. But anyways, back to RPGs and Super Mario RPG. I didn't actually complete a JRPG that wasn't called Pokemon until a couple of years ago when I beat Final Fantasy X. And I'm sort of new on the train, so I never played Super Mario RPG back in the day. But I finally got my opportunity this past week playing Super Mario RPG, the remake that was announced back in June. I was very excited when I heard that they were doing a remake because I was like, oh, well, I've always heard wonderful things about that game, so I finally would probably get the chance to play it. And what solidified that I was definitely going to be playing it on day one was when I told my wife that a remake of it was coming out, and she told me that it was one of her top 5 favorite games. So I was excited, and so I played it for the very first time last Friday. And so, Syb, there are some games that I think it's fair to say that most games, as time passes, their age starts to show. But then there are just some games that no matter what you do, they're going to stick around forever just because the core gameplay is just so finely tuned. Nintendo is generally historically pretty good at that. Same thing with video game companies like Valve, maybe some of the Souls games. I can see people playing those for the next 10 to 15 years. But it's very rare. I can say with absolute confidence that Super Mario RPG is one of those games. I played it for the first time, and I can say that in terms of an RPG, Super Mario RPG is like everything that's great about an RPG boiled down to its most basic elements, and then having those basic elements refined to perfection. The game is very, 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 very simple. Simple combat, simple stats, simple items, magic, but it's all done in such a way where it's no nonsense, but it's incredibly addictive. And I think the fact that addictiveness is able to be maintained in a game that's mostly just a graphical upgrade with some minor gameplay tweaks is a true testament to why this game is so well regarded. I adore this. It's not without one or two problems, which I'll get to in a second, but yeah, it's an absolutely wonderful experience. It's got great pacing, a great variety of mini games interspliced with all the typical, JRPG staples, like, engaging in battles with a whole bunch of people, building up your experience, getting new weapons and all that sort of stuff. It's got a great story with a really, really great sense of humor. It's just all the core mechanics there just hold up wonderfully almost 3 decades later. And and then it's just made even better by all the quality of life additions and the graphical updates, which I'll go into detail in right now. The graphical updates obviously are the most obvious ones. They're good. Like, it's not mind-blowing or anything, but it does maintain the charm and the art direction of the original game while upping the graphical fidelity. I know I did just say that I didn't play it, but I've always seen like gameplay and screen caps from the original game, and yeah, they did a lovely job there. Lots of quality of life changes that apparently they added. They have fast travel, from which I understand it wasn't in the original game. I can imagine that being a huge pain in the ass, having to go back across the map. But yeah, that wonderful addition. They have increased combat precision. Syb, this needs to be a thing in every single JRPG game. When you're fighting somebody, if you time a button press just right between when you tell Mario or whoever to attack and when they actually attack, if you time it just right, you can do an increased amount of damage. So in the original game that was there, but they actually add a new element to that mechanism in the new game where if you do it super precisely, you do even more damage, which is, it just keeps you engaged, right? And it makes you like, it's that one added element that keeps things addictive so that you're always paying attention. You're not just mindlessly grinding. I loved it in Final Fantasy VIII, and I love it here, and I hope more games do that sort of thing in the future. One of the greatest things that I think remakes can do is give the option, if they want to do remixes of the music from the original, to allow you to switch between the new music and the old music. I loved it when the Spyro games did that, and I love it here. It's wonderful interchanging between the two of them. They both sound fantastic, and I'm so glad they have the option. They also add a list of monsters and their weaknesses in case you forgot. That's great. Instead of if you have item excess, like you pick up too many items, you can just send them to a storage box back at your home base, which is great.
I love it when you do that. One of my favorite features from Baldur's Gate 3.
Yes. Oh God. Yeah. Thank God. Because I'm a loot whore when it comes to those types of games.
Me too.
Yeah. And it's absolutely. Why is it that Baldur's Gate 3 has it, but Starfield doesn't have it? Anyways. But yeah, mostly just praise across the board. I love playing this game. I've had a blast. Just one or two things that really irked me though. Nintendo should never do a rhythm game, Syb. Ever. Because trying to do precise button presses in the mini games is miserable. Do you remember, I don't know if you recall this from playing Super Mario RPG back in the day, but there is this part in the game where you can get Yoshi to engage in a race, and you have to alternate between pressing A and B on the controller. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm doing that on my.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that. It's in my fond memories next to wisdom teeth extraction, root canals, toenail removal. You know, just the normal everyday you love to have it kind of things.
So I'm not crazy, right? It's crap.
It's evil. It's evil. Yeah. I hate rhythm games. I'm not good at them. I appreciate that other people are good at them, because I always ask them to play the game when I don't want to play through that, because I can't do rhythm. It is one of the things I am incapable of.
Okay, yeah.
I hate it.
Fair enough. And I forgot that. So when I'm talking about like as somebody who actually likes rhythm games, it doesn't work. Like I'm playing the game and my wife is trolling me. He's like, "What are you talking about? It works fine." And she's like, "No, I'm just joking. It doesn't work. It doesn't work." That when I'm trying to alternate between pressing A and B, A, B, A, B to try and get Yoshi to move, it's not working. What the hell, Nintendo? At least fix that. If you're doing all these other wonderful things, you can fix that. And then second,
I wonder if my trauma with dealing with rhythm games started with this. Because I don't remember where my trauma started. And it's just a black space whenever I try to think of it. And I'm like, wait a second, maybe it was this?
Right, sorry. I was just trying to move my mic so I can get my notes out here. Yeah, it's... I mean, maybe. It's a very, very old game. It's like, what, 27 years old? When did it come out?
Yeah. It's 27 years old.
Oh, God. Okay, yeah. So maybe.
So it is a very long time ago. I was... God, I don't even want to try to remember.
Okay. Yeah, we don't want to age ourselves. I don't want to. Yeah. All right. But, and then secondly, this isn't really a bad thing because I still love the game nonetheless, but it is probably one of the easiest games that I've played in a very, very long time. And it might just be because of all the JRPGs that I have been playing, they can get quite difficult. So playing all those games prepared me for for this game. Mm-hmm. But it's very easy. I haven't died once. And yeah, so if you like difficulty in your games, you might want to wait until the game gets a patch or something, or maybe just skip it altogether if you're really adamant about playing it with difficulty. Because at the moment I'm playing on normal and that's the highest difficulty. So yeah, unless you're trying to do speed runs or something where you have minimal experience and minimal weapons, then maybe skip it. But even then, I don't think you should, because the game is still very addictive and very fun and very charming and very cozy, despite that lack of difficulty. So, and those are the only two main criticisms. So if you can see past those two things, you will get a very, very lovely update to a classic game worth revisiting, and so much of it just still holds up wonderfully almost 3 decades later. So yeah, I would give it one of my highest recommendations. Go check it out if you haven't gone yet. Syb, do you have a Switch? We don't normally cover Nintendo games here because that's not really our bread and butter, but do you have one?
Yeah, we really have always wanted to cover Nintendo games. Ash loves them. He has a Switch.
Yeah, he does.
He has a family that loves it. We would honestly love to, but Nintendo has been so hostile to content creators for so long, that it's even today, we just cringe at the idea of trying to cover it, because you never know when they're going to do another rug pull, or when they're just going to be like, hey, we're just claiming all your videos, period. Or the ridiculous, still there is still ridiculous rules on, if you're going to become a Nintendo streamer, there are still a ridiculously insane amount of rules that you have to follow, and then you have to sign papers. It's really messed up, and that is the
Very
biggest
archaic
thing keeping us from doing it. Now, I don't know if that has changed recently, but that's kind of where it has been at for so long.
Well,
and they've always kind of, and sometimes they've gone back on it. just been like, hey, yeah, so we decided that we're not letting anybody do this anymore, period.
I would like
and
to
then you're just done.
Mm-hmm. I definitely sympathize, because you're right. Up until very recently, they have been like that. I think the backlash against them has been so substantial that things are kind of calm right now, and I don't think they're going to go back to that unless something truly drastic happens. For myself, I've done 3 videos on Zelda on my channel. I haven't had any problems, but still, it's good to be vigilant, and it's still good to remember like what kind of company Nintendo can be. Even though they make amazing games from time to time, a lot of their business practices are still quite archaic. But besides all that, Super Mario RPG is a great game. Have you guys been playing it? Do you like the remake? I've been hearing some mixed things about very specific details in regards to it from people who are longtime fans of it. But I mean, my wife it's one of her top 5 favorite games, and she loves the remake. So who knows? I like a variety of opinions, though. So if you have any other opinions that I didn't express, I'd love to hear what you guys have to think in the comments section below. All right. So that's one good piece of news. Now we're just going to get through a couple of pieces of sort of like middling news, and then we're going to cap things off with a couple of pieces of really, really good news. So bear with us. First of all, Naughty Dog. They don't have the best reputation at the moment. I mean, kudos to them for giving them the... Let me finish what I was about to say. They, like, The Last of Us HBO thing was very, very well done. Not completely consistent, but some of the best episodes of television that I have seen in a very, very long time. So that's a win for them. But alongside that, there have been a couple of controversies. One, most recently, was sort of the whole Last of Us Part 1 on the PC debacle, how that released in probably the worst state that a Sony game has ever released on a PC. And then just some stuff that we've talked about on this show and other outlets have talked about in regards to behind-the-scenes dealings and the way that employees at Naughty Dog have been treated. And this is just sort of the next line in a big debate surrounding Naughty Dog and the way that they're handling their IPs. It just got announced a couple days ago that The Last of Us 2, the rumors are true, it's getting remastered. Now,
oh, gee, whoever could have seen this coming.
Right.
Oh my goodness. I wonder if I remember saying this about a year and a half ago, saying, oh, I bet you I know what they're going to do after they do the remaster for Last of Us 1. They're going to start working on the remake for The Last of Us 2. And then once that's done, they're going to do another remake of The Last of Us 1 because it's the only thing that they can do.
Mm-hmm. So it really does feel that way. And it's kind of sad because Naughty Dog, man, when they really, really try, their work is some of the best in the industry. But that hasn't necessarily been the case for the last 3 or 4 years. But anyways, let's get into this. And then I have a couple of... I'm of 2 different minds in regards to this story. And I really am curious to hear what you have to say about it, Sib. So the deal is, Last of Us 2, the remaster for it, is coming out on January 19th of next year, 2024. Unlike what they did with The Last of Us Part 1, where they remastered it and tried to sell it at the same price... Mm-hmm. For Last of Us 2, because the Last of Us 2 came out, gosh, I can't believe it's been over 3 years since that game came out. Because it's only that old, what they're doing is instead of charging full price, they're saying to people who bought the game on the PS4, hey, if you want to upgrade to the PS5, upgrade your graphics, and then also get a couple of new modes, including a Horde mode, and a free guitar mode, because the game gives you the opportunity to play as Ellie with the guitar. You just have to pay $10. So that's what they're adding in. If you're a fan of The Last of Us Part 2, and I think it's fair to say that neither you and I are big fans of the game, to say the least, but there are undeniably a lot of people who live and die by this game. $10 for the convenience of having the game on a new console, along with a couple of new modes and improved graphics like 60 frames per second. Is it that bad? in and of itself, no. So there's that, but it does stand alongside. Like I hold that opinion alongside the other opinion that doing stuff like this at the present moment doesn't really do much to help Naughty Dog's brand, So we want to know what the hell's going on with the Last of Us factions. Apparently, there's from rumors I've been hearing, they've been working on some sort of new IP. I'm curious as to what's going on with both of those. And when you do stuff like this, it just seems like kind of desperate and cash grabby, So I don't know. Si, do you think, am I off base by thinking that doing this is relatively okay, even if it doesn't look good, or am I wrong here?
No, I think I really don't like the company. I like where they were a few years ago. I liked who was doing the writing a few years ago. Those are the people who aren't there anymore. But I think in a lot of cases you are right about this, and I think a lot of the fans are right about this too. Is there is a bit of a sense of treating them like a cash cow kind of thing, because it's not much, but it's also what they're offering is not much. So maybe that's a trade. But if I go to your house and you invite me over to your house and you're like, hey, would you like a glass of water? And I'm like, sure, I'd love a glass of water. And then you bring the glass of water out and you're like, $2, please. It's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird thing. Now, and again, it's I've always said that devs deserve to make money for their time, right? But I think this was just done poorly, and I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with hey, we're adding a horde mode. Just call it an upgraded DLC, a DLC upgrade, and then have at it, right? I think what I would have done in this particular case is I would have announced that they were doing this big upgrade, and then it's coming to the new console, and that we're releasing a companion DLC with it that introduces these things. If you have the game, you get it for free. But if you want the DLC, then just pay $10 for the DLC. I think if they had done it that way, they probably would have sold the exact same number of DLC packages as what they're expecting to do with this.
Maybe.
I honestly believe that. I really do. The math for this kind of stuff, it tends to just be the same because you're catering to a small group of your core fans, and it's always best to just treat them with respect.
Yeah.
And so I think some people are upset, and I think they have an absolute right to be upset, because in most scenarios, most of us kind of look at each other and go, well, why the charge? Why the, if you're doing an upgrade, just do an upgrade, and I mean, Bethesda set that rule. It's you get free upgrades if you own it. It's but it's more expensive if you don't own it. So it's that, and that's normal because you're getting a full price game with it. Not saying that Bethesda is the shining beacon of horse armor, but it's the thought that counts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And especially as we get closer to Christmas, it's you hear that so often from all our favorite, holiday movies and stuff like that, and they're clearly not thinking of the fans. They're thinking about bottom line.
Yeah.
And again, it's it would have ended up being the exact same thing.
Yeah, I agree with you.
They really should have just stuck with it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think probably would have generated more goodwill and maybe made me less sort of on the fence in terms of how I feel about this, is if they did just say to people who have a PS5, hey, here's a free upgrade to upgrade the graphics and to have it available on PS5. And then if you want the additional horde mode and extra modes, then pay a little bit of extra for that. And I think, like you said, the people that love The Last of Us Part 2, Syb, love it. And they can't get enough of it. And if you did something like that to generate goodwill, you're absolutely right. I think a lot of them would have bought that and played it. So, because Last of Us Part 2 is sort of unique in that regard. But yeah, charging just $10 up front, maybe that wasn't the best idea, but I get it. It's just Last of Us is really popular right now, and they sort of want to milk it, and they don't really have a whole lot of other stuff working right now. Last of Us Factions is sort of on the back burner because they don't know how to make it work. Bungie came in and said, "Oh, this isn't gonna generate you money long term. You got to make it even more predator." No, I'm not just. That's not what they actually said, but it's just me and Cyb reading in between the lines and being cynical. But yeah, that's sort of where things are right now. I'm sure that other people have far more negative opinions, and maybe there is, a great deal of legitimacy to them. And we'd love to hear you if you have those opinions in the comment section below. Just express them civilly. So yeah, that's that. Let's move on to some of your stories, man. What is the deal with Fallout 4? What's going on with that?
So this was a oh man, I don't know how to phrase this without being like getting too rude or whatever. So Fallout 4 has been expected to have a next gen update for a while. It's literally been on. It was announced like oh, hey, yeah, we're doing this, expect it sometime soon TM. And then it just kind of disappeared, and we haven't heard anything about it for ages. And I was more annoyed with the journalists who were doing this, like, newsflash, everyone, newsflash, hear you, hot off the presses. What's his name? Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. I forgot his name. The former guy, he just retired. Pete Hines. Pete Hines says something about Fallout 4. Get it off the presses. Come here right now. Check this news story out. You run over. You're like, all right, 25 cents. Here you go. Oh, no, special edition. It's $1, sir. Oh, okay. All right, fine. Okay. I'm really excited to hear this news. $1. Pete Hines, after his retirement, states that he can't really talk about what's happening with Fallout 4's remaster mod. Please buy the next issue of this paper. And you're just like, you made an announcement about a guy saying that he can't really talk about it?
Yeah, I'm reading this article right now. Are you really?
I am so angry.
That's such nothing. Like people, anything with Fallout, journalists will try to make anything about it, I suppose.
Well, it's not just Fallout. It's everything, right? Like if this had been some big news about our last story or this other story, it's like, hey everybody, there's some news that's not really news. So yeah, Pete Hines was like, yeah, I really wished that it could have been one of the things. I really kind of was hoping that it was one of the things I could get out before I retired, but I chose to retire now instead of later. Mm-hmm. And I can't really talk about Fallout 4 Remaster, when it's coming out or what it's going to contain, because that's not my job anymore. And it was just like, wow, you ran a press, you charged me extra just to hear this news. What is wrong with you? So yeah, that's the news, that it's not really any news worth sharing, and people are scumbags.
Right. And the only difference between us and these people is that we're laughing about it because it's ridiculous. Yeah. You're right to feel upset, though, I suppose. Like I did remember us talking about this, I think, on the Maximum News show about a year ago. And I just looked it up, and yeah, they made an announcement regarding this back in October of 2022.
Yep.
So, God, over a year, nothing.
Clearly, it was supposed to come out more recently. What has happened with Starfield, where that stuff is happening, what's going on with that. I've heard that there is some engine update stuff that they're doing. I hear that they're waiting for some other stuff. I do think that if they don't have a surprise game or a major patch for, like, a major overhaul patch for 76 to tie into the release of the Fallout show, it's really dumb to release those two things apart from each other.
Yeah, it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, it's a huge missed opportunity. So I think that in what makes the most amount of sense is that you just say, hey, we're trying to we're gonna delay it. We're gonna release it with some extra content that's gonna revolve around the game. And if you want some speculative news that I can't guarantee, that I may or may not have heard
Fallout New Vegas
whilst
remaster?
talking to a little bird. No, yeah, sure. I'll go over that stuff again.
Okay.
But if you want the news that I heard from a bird who heard from another bird, which is not normally, I don't normally say stuff like this. There's going to be some themed stuff around the show that will be releasing with the remake. For the Fallout. Sorry, it's not a remake. It's just a remaster. Sorry, remake. Wrong word. For the remaster for Fallout 4.
That makes sense.
So that makes a lot of sense. It's very logical. I don't like if you're going, oh wow, we get to go out to wherever that's going to be in California. There's going to be some great stuff. No. Don't get too ahead. Don't get too ahead. I think maybe what we'll be getting is like, I don't know, a vault suit and maybe some stylized weapons.
Yeah,
I really think that's all we're going to get. So again, I don't want to throw a wet blanket on your party, but it's like, yeah, probably that's probably what's going to happen. It's probably not going to be that great. My wishful thinking, on the other hand, is that there's a remake to not only New Vegas, but there's a remake for 1 and 2 that's going to be announced. And that here's my dream, and I guarantee you, this is not something I've heard. This is just something that I've dreamt. My dream is that it's announced that Larian's next project is doing a full, complete Fallout 1 release with a fair amount of changes, but still turn-based, and now in the not the isometric thing, but using the current game engine that Baldur's Gate 3 is working on, with obvious upgrades for a next gen thing, and that's dropping in 3 to 4 years, with the alpha early access starting next year as soon as the show drops. Oh my goodness, that would make me so happy. Probably not going to happen.
Oh, but
probably not.
Syb, just the idea of that made me almost want to weep with joy.
I know, right? It is probably one of the best ideas, and I'm going, why? I really hope this is a thing. I really do. This is. I mean, I don't want to pat my own back, but this is probably one of the greatest ideas, and it would. Fallout 1 is actually quite a small game.
Yeah.
And if they stuck with, and they didn't really add too much to it, they just stuck with the locations. They came up with some kind of a travel system that kind of mirrors it, came up with a lot of random encounters. You could probably, honestly, Larian could probably pump that out in probably 2 years. Mm-hmm. Because Fallout 1 is not a massive game. There's not a million lines of dialogue in that game. It is a lot smaller than people think. You can speed run the game in I think, what is it? I think it's like an hour and no, it's probably it's probably under an hour. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm actually going to look this up now.
That would be so great. And it would be a wonderful way of sort of capitalizing on the Fallout IP, because as you and I have said on a number of occasions over the past several months, Syb, is that it's looking like Fallout is going to become Microsoft's flagship franchise moving forward. And what better way than to lend the license to a company like Larian that could really do a fantastic job applying their game design ethic to those old games. It would be magnificent. And them combined with Chris Avallone's writing, yes, please give that to me. But do you think there's a chance that maybe, just before we move on from this, I do think that Fallout 1 and 2 remakes are not off the table. I do believe that there have been discussions. Do you think they would go the route of just doing those games with their story and their world space, but with Fallout 3, 4, and New Vegas type gameplay?
I hope so, because it works. This is the thing that I need. I need some studio to realize this. It works.
Yeah.
I mean, I know obviously, Larian Studios gets it, right?
Yeah.
But this legitimately, this concept, this way of building games and releasing games, and the style, the RPG, the experience, it works.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason why it hasn't worked is people stopped trying to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's like no, we're so close, and so that, like, I've got my fingers crossed. I really am excited for the potential of what, obviously the next big project. I don't want them to go, hey, we're making a shooter. Please don't do it. Please don't. CDPR tried that. It didn't go over very well for them. It took them a lot of years and a lot of money to fix that mistake.
Right.
Please don't do that. Just stick with what you know. I really do want that, and I really do want the I really want the people to see the potential that this has, and yeah. So I think there are a lot of studios who are assessing this up, going, hey, actually, you know what, this actually kind of works, and people love horny characters and stuff like this. It's like if we do this right, it can work. We can sell a large amount of this.
Yeah, no matter what they decide to do, I think that there's at least one or two things that we can be really excited about. Fallout's future is looking very, very bright. Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of the aforementioned CDPR, CD Projekt Red, one of the greatest games of all time is just going to become even greater. Do you want to tell people about that, Seb?
Yeah. So The Witcher
3.
Let me pull up The Witcher 3. Let me pull up my notes about this, because I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So Witcher 3, 8 years ago. Was it 8 years? Really?
God, did it 2015? Really? Yeah, let me look this up. I think it was 2016 or 2017.
No, it's 2015. Yeah, it's
wow. Okay.
So, anyways, they released the game. They released the last bit of it didn't really get good until what was it, Blood and Wine or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
No official mod editor.
Mm-hmm. For a game that could really benefit from it.
Yeah. But now, finally, we're getting an official mod editor, and it's coming soon.
Oh, really? It's coming soon? Did they say when?
I don't know. Soon to them could mean a couple different things. So don't get too excited.
Right.
I do find it annoying that there were some idiots out there who went, but why is it only coming out for PC only? I mean, really, guys. I mean, don't you know how much fun it is to code on your console? Idiots.
Well, look, I think it's fine to ask to do what Skyrim did with their special editions, where you can download mods.
Oh yeah.
That's
no.
Fine.
I think yeah. Well, I mean, you still can't do that on PlayStation, but
true.
Yeah. No. The idea of like mods coming to consoles is great, and I really love it, and I really hope that we get more of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, considering how many mods, and there are some really great mods out there for The Witcher 3. There's tons of really good mods for it.
Yeah.
The fact that they've never had an official mod tool is like, wow, that sucks. And it has been a really long time. And again, no, I've never seen a company properly do this. If you release mod tools, you can create so much content that you can then integrate into your game, into your company. I guess Bethesda does this pretty well. Not perfect, but pretty well. That you can then use to sell. And there's some really good ways that you can do this. So why aren't you doing it? It doesn't make any sense.
Right. Well, it's something to say, like, Witcher 3 has been a game that people have been playing nonstop for the last 8 years, because it's just so jam-packed full of content, and the gameplay loop is just so addictive. So people are going to continue to play it for years anyways. But now that they're doing this, adding in custom content, being able to maybe create new lands, new missions, maybe even give me the opportunity to ride a griffin. Somebody please do that. You just prolonged this game's lifespan. You probably just doubled it. in my opinion, because that's
You won't
just
get. I don't think you'll get flying griffins.
what
I really.
they did flying cars in Cyberpunk 2077. Side, you can give me a flying griffin. Why not?
Well, maybe not. We'll see.
Or something that flies. There are flying
Yeah.
beasts in that game. Come on, he's the tamer of beasts. Come on, he can do it. Somebody make it work. But yeah, very, very exciting. I'd love to see, like, let me ask you, Side, like, you're a huge fan of The Witcher 3. What ideally would you like to see a fan create and put into the game?
Honestly,
What's your
people
wish?
are gonna hate me. People are gonna hate me for this.
What's that?
Oh my! Should I even say it? All right. You know what I want? You know what I want for The Witcher 3?
Go ahead.
I want the ability to pick a different protagonist. I know people are going to be so angry with me. They're going to be like, what is wrong with you? I really want a different protagonist. I can only listen to Growly speak for so long before it gets grating on my nerves. The game is great. And Geralt and his actor are amazingly well done. Good job. 100%. It's just not my favorite thing to listen to.
Right. Well, you know what? As somebody who doesn't really have a huge emotional attachment to The Witcher, I can agree with you. What I have experienced with The Witcher universe, they have some fantastic characters. I would not mind playing a character like Ciri or Yennefer, just going around and kicking ass and seeing the world through their eyes. That'd be really cool. Or what the hell's the name of his partner? Of Geralt's partner? The guy that travels with him?
I can't remember his name.
Yeah, whatever his name is, the foil. Yeah, I'd love to see that, or just I don't know, maybe create a fully voice acted quest line like Enderall from Skyrim. Although that'd probably take like 5 or 6 years before something like that happened, but it'd be cool. I'd be down for it. Anyways, yeah, that's finally coming, and yeah. Thank God CD Projekt Red came to their senses in that regard. That's a great way to get goodwill with the fans, especially after the last few years. And hopefully the trajectory just continues to go up with the release of the Witcher remake and whatever else comes down the pike. I
will say that CDPR has done a great thing with Cyberpunk. I will give them the kudos for that. We were pretty upset. A lot of us got burned pretty bad by the amount of stuff that we put into that. And our tagline, we invented the tagline, when it's ready. And we begged them, please only release this when it's actually ready to go. And every single time, we heard them cutting back or removing a feature because it was too time constraint. We understood what that meant. That meant that they were crunching, that they didn't have enough time to actually complete the thing, and that they were tying their own hands. And we asked them every single time, just delay it again, or remove the support for the older consoles. We know that you'll get a lot of hate for it, but you get more hate for an incompleted bad game. Now, kudos to them, because they spent, as I understand it, they spent almost every dollar that they made on selling the game in the first place, in its broken state, fixing the game with this update, with the expansion, and making the game actually functionable, and bringing back a lot of stuff that people really, really, really wanted, and doing that. So I gotta give it to them. You guys did a great job with that, and I really want you to keep that in mind as you move into more development and new development and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it also, I really do think, in my humble opinion, it proved them wrong about the engine. The engine was not the problem. It was the 2 years of misdevelopment and all the community fixes that the community fixed, because they included a lot of that. There are a lot of mod work that was done on the mods for the game that were brought in to fix the game. And that is huge. Absolutely huge, and people need to remember that.
Yeah, let's hope they keep it up for the next few years and we don't return to that whole debacle. I mean, I can't imagine they would want to even risk doing anything like that in the near future. But I mean,
Fingers crossed.
if they do, could enjoy, being one of the most hated companies alongside Ubisoft and people like that, institutions like that. All right, let's finish off on another piece of positive news. Saib, you ever played the original Dragon's Dogma?
Yeah, a little bit. Not as much as one of the games that I was never able to like really dive into.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of the greats. It's very good.
Mm-hmm. I started playing it for the first time several months ago. I actually think I used some of the gameplay that I recorded as the background for one of our more recent Maximum News shows. It's surprisingly good for a 10-year-old game. It's a bit rough around the edges. There's some things that I think could have done with a little bit more polish. Like, a couple of the things that the game sells itself on in terms of its unique mechanics is sort of the ability to climb on a variety of different beasts, Shadow of the Colossus style, and then slay them that way. Like, aside from Shadow of the Colossus, I'm not aware of any other game like sword and sandal type game that allows you to do that, but Dragon's Dogma did it. And while it's entertaining, it was kind of tough. And then there are just a couple of other things where it's just like, gosh, so many great ideas. If only they had a little bit more time to polish it, this could have turned into a legendary game. But as it is, it's really, really damn good. And because it's damn good as it is, it has made me really, really interested to see if they can sort of make the original game measure up to its potential with Dragon's Dogma 2, which was announced back... when was it announced? Like earlier this year. I think it was in May. Yeah, I was kind of surprised. So, a bit of interesting news. This may or may not be legit. Peggy leaked. Peggy is sort of the ratings board for video games over in the UK, I believe, or for Europe.
Did Peggy do some bad?
Yeah. Apparently, some people seem to think that they accidentally leaked the release date for Dragon's Dogma 2. And they're saying it's coming out in March, which is kind of odd for a game that you would imagine they want to try and make more high profile, a game like Dragon's Dogma 2. They probably want to start doing marketing for it a little bit sooner. But here's a couple of pieces of interesting information that might make this accidental leak legit. Like, instead of it just being a mistake on their part. So, a week or two ago, we were talking about how Capcom has this mystery game that they were looking to unveil in March. So the timing of this news and the fact that that news article came out a couple weeks ago, it seems curious. Plus, Capcom did announce a few days ago that on November 28th, so in just over a week from the time that we're recording this, we're going to be getting a full-on showcase of what the stuff that you can do in Dragon's Dogma 2. Be a pretty appropriate time to announce that, hey, the game's coming out in 4 months. So, given that, I think it is reasonable to believe that Dragon's Dogma 2 will be coming out in March, and it is that surprise game. However, I'm not completely convinced, because that report that I was just referencing that came out a couple of weeks ago, where they're saying that Capcom is releasing this mystery game, the wording of that report suggested that the game they're looking to announce has yet to be announced. Like, it's something that we're not aware of yet.
That's what they said, but I think I pointed this out, is like, sometimes when they say that, they don't think of like every avenue of it.
True.
Of what
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it might be that when they said unannounced, they meant unannounced release date, right? Maybe that's what they meant. I can see why some people would think that, but there's enough wiggle room there where it could be like, oh, no, actually it's Resident Evil Code Veronica remake. I mean, that'd be kind of soon, I think. I don't know. When did Resident Evil 8 come out? That came out in 2021, right? And it's usually a 3-year wait between games. So I would expect the next one to be Resident Evil 9. But that, I would imagine they wait until a bit later in the year and not in March, especially for like their flagship franchise. So it can't be that. I don't think it's Dino Crisis, although I'd love for it to be. Maybe something Monster Hunter related. But yeah, Syb, what do you think about the chances that this might be Dragon's Dogma 2? What do you think?
I think that I think it's possible. But I've always learned never to assume that you know what, especially Japanese CEOs mean when they say things.
True.
Because they don't always say the thing in the way that most other people would take it. Sometimes there's some confusion on that category. So again, I'm not saying like, I don't mean that as an insult.
No. Japanese and English are very different languages.
Yeah, they have very different ways of putting contextual stuff, and translation can sometimes be difficult. But yeah, I think that I won't be surprised if this is the thing, and it'll make a lot of sense, honestly. And we'll probably see this ad for whatever this project or whatever this product is. I think we're definitely going to see it during the Game Awards.
What? Like just them showcasing a trailer?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many trailers. There's so many world first trailers coming out at this Game Awards.
But why would they do that like 10 days after doing a big showcase?
I
don't know. Okay.
I mean, again, it's like
I guess no. You know what?
We'll see we'll see whatever it is. Like if it's not Dragon's Dogma, it's obviously going to be something else. If it is Dragon's Dogma, then obviously it'll just be a follow up for the people who didn't see the thing.
Sure. Right? Yeah. You know what? That makes sense because Dragon's Dogma, it was sort of marketed as sort of like this competitor to the Skyrims of the world and the Witchers of the world, and it never really measured up to that. It did well, but not. It's not sort of getting to that franchise status that I think Capcom had it originally wanted. So maybe they do need to do something like that. A big showcase for the fans, and then a big platform like the Game Awards to truly send the marketing campaign into the stratosphere. And then they just continue to market it all the way up until March. Because 2024, even though there are a lot of great games that are going to be coming out next year, it's not going to be to the extent things that like the number of games that we got in 2023. And aside from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, are there any games releasing in Q1 2024 that people are really, really looking forward to? I don't think so.
Like I said, I think there's going to be a lot of games that are going to be coming out and getting a spotlight on them, because there are a lot of games that are on my list that are just still to be announced, right? What are we getting? When are we getting? We don't know. We have no idea. And I think that some of them are going to release Q1. Some of them are. Q2 this year was just so slow. It was so, and that's one of the reasons why Diablo did so good, is that it released against basically no competition, and then literally like 3 months later, you had everything come out all at once.
Yep.
And it was like, how do I even have the time? How do I even have the time? Oh my goodness, how do I have the time?
Yeah, I'm just looking at this list of games coming out Q1 2024, and while there are actually a lot more games than I recall being excited for, there's sort of more for, like, more, not, niche isn't the right word, that's a bit too strong of a word, but they're more for, like, pre-existing fan bases, and I don't imagine, like, them getting new fans. So there's games like, let's see here, Tekken 8, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. That game looks amazing, but I don't think it's going to appeal to a mass audience. I obviously want to play the Persona 3 remake. We're not even going to talk about Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, obviously. Unicorn Overload, that's a great, amazing looking game. And then Princess Peach Showtime. But that's it. So aside from maybe, I can imagine like the Elden Ring DLC coming out Q1. But I mean, if they have Dragon's Dogma 2 ready to go, that might be an ideal time to release it. So over under 50% chance, I'd say over. I think we might actually be getting a Dragon's Dogma in March of next year, and that would be wonderful. It would just suck because I'd have to go and try and plow through Dragon's Dogma 1 before then, because I only put like 10 hours into that game. But yeah, I'm excited, dude. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we conclude this episode of Maximum News for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, make sure you hit that like button, because when you do that, it helps out not only this video, but all the other videos on the Triple S League channel. Leave a comment if you have any thoughts on any or all the things that we said on today's show. I want to thank Syb, as always, for doing this show with me. Syb, anything you want to say or plug before we finish?
I just before we recorded this, I recorded another video out with Ash. That's going to be out soon. And then I'm going to have a couple more things coming out about the upcoming season of Discovery for World of Warcraft. It's the amount of people that have been watching WoW on Twitch and on live streams on YouTube is amazing. Things are changing at that company. Things are changing, and in a lot of good ways. There's still some bad apples there, but we talk about it in tomorrow's episode. Please check that out.
I mean, if you're getting Syb on board, that's saying something when it comes to World of Warcraft. And you guys could just find me on all the regular forms of social media, just at Max Derrat, primarily on my YouTube channel. I just released a video today called The Top 10 Most Philosophical Video Games Ever Made. Getting some positive response on that. Make sure you go check that out. And of course, I have a new video up every week, maybe like every 7 or 8 days is usually my release schedule. So if you like in-depth academic looks at video games, go check out my channel. I'll put links to that and and all other relevant stuff in the description box below. All right, until we do this again next week, guys, I want to remind you, as always and as per usual, stay yellow.
Goodbye.